Yeah, buddy. Welcome back to Not Ryan Gosling, and this is episode number 2, baby. Yeah, buddy. 2 episodes in, and just in case you don't know who I am or don't remember, my name is Ben Haney. I'll be your host for this show. And for those who saw the last episode, which was the introduction episode, what'd you guys think of that cliffhanger I left off at the end, huh? That's pretty sneaky, wasn't it? Yeah, buddy. You gotta bait them. You gotta get that hook for the next one, baby. That's MassCom all the way. EIU MassCom represent, baby. For all those EIU MassCom people out there, throw your hands in the air. That's how we do it. Gotta get that hook, baby. Gotta get that enigma, as Dr. Scott Wallace would call it. Anyway, so for those who didn't watch the last episode, basically what I said I was gonna do, I was gonna give a format of like a Watch Mojo type of format, which is basically mostly top 10s, so it'll be a kind of a listing format. And the top 10 for this episode is going to be my top 10 favorite films of all time. And so I guess we'll just get started right away. You guys like that? You guys ready for that? So here we go. Ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My top 10 favorite films of all time. Number 10, Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 original by George Romero. Zombies terrorize a small town in Pennsylvania, and the last remaining survivors try to fight them off. This, ladies and gentlemen, this film right here is the holy grail of low-budget indie filmmaking. It doesn't really get much better than this. Now, when I make an indie film, a low-budget film like Indie and Ben, my expectations are, well, will this be Night of the Living Dead status, or will this just be another low-budget indie film that nobody will care about? So that's kind of my standard when I make my films, at least. So this is how much I respect this film, how much I look up to this film. It's one of my inspirations. There was a song made by Kanye West a few years ago. It's called Everything I'm Not Made Me Everything I Am. And this is a perfect description of this film, because everything it wasn't did make it everything it is today. This film did not have a huge budget. This film did not have A-list actors, not even really B-list actors. I can't honestly even remember the names of the actors in this film, nor can I remember anything they've done since this film. I'm sure some of them were just kind of friends of the crew or whatever. If they were in other films, I've never heard of them, so I'm assuming things didn't go so well for their acting careers after this film. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is what they're remembered for, so I'm sure, it doesn't hurt them too much. Not a lot of fancy equipment used. The main camera used for this film was a 35mm camera, so it really gave it that documentary feel, that grungy kind of guerrilla filmmaking feel, kind of a found footage type of feel, which is excellent for this film because this film is kind of a documentary, found footage, survival, the last of humanity type of feel, and so that really works for this film. Now, people have remastered this film over the years, give it the HD, clean-cut look. I don't really like those versions. I don't like them at all, really, because they're too clean-looking. I like the old, grungy-looking original, because it felt like it wasn't a film. It was, like I said, like a found footage film, like a documentary feel, and that's perfect. So what I'm basically trying to say is this movie was not built for box office success. As you all know, this is one of the most successful horror movies of all time, one of the highest selling horror movies of all time. And to add to that, the movie is in the public domain, which means it's not copyrighted, which means that anybody can get it online for free, legally. And so with all of that, and this movie still makes so much money, that's just a testament of how great this movie is and how successful it was. It's really remarkable, really. It's got that going for it. And not only that is, I think, one of the most ultimate respects to a film. The U.S. Library of Congress in 1999, the National Film Registry, put this movie in the vault. So what that means is, if the United States of America was nuked by, some warring country, completely wiped the entire country and its civilization out, this movie would still be in a vault somewhere, hidden in the vault somewhere. So if there was ever a rebirth of American civilization, they may one day stumble upon Night of the Living Dead and know what this country used to be about. This is a very cultural, significant movie to Americans. When you watch this movie as an American, you get that nostalgic feeling. It's hard to explain to non-Americans. I'm sure, Americans understand what I'm saying. When you watch this film, it feels like you just want to eat some apple pie, cheeseburgers. It just feels so American. You get that nostalgic feeling. Kind of like a James Dean, Marilyn Monroe. This film is kind of up there with that when it comes to, recognizing American culture. This film started so many trends. For example, the term zombie. Before this film, zombie was in no way, shape, or form related to these flesh-eating corpses. The term zombie referred back to films like White Zombie in the 1930s. Basically, zombie meant people who are kind of under a spell from a voodoo witch doctor. They were basically like living corpses, I guess. But when this film came out, the term zombie started to mean the flesh-eating zombies as we know it today. Even though the term zombie was not used in the film, the term ghoul was used in the film. But somehow zombie got started. And without this movie, it's pretty reasonable to say we wouldn't have shows like The Walking Dead. We wouldn't have movies like The Dawn of the Dead, Warm Bodies, Zombieland. Pretty much any other zombie movie to be famous now. This movie was the first, the original, it was the trendsetter, and all these other horror movies gotta thank this movie for it. And you could also argue that this film also inspired films like Halloween, Friday the 13th. So this movie kind of gave hope that you don't have to have a huge Hollywood budget to be a great film, a successful film, a high-selling film. Now, there's been all kinds of different theories over the years of the metaphors, the undertones of this film, such things as, kind of racist undertones. This was in the 1960s. For example, the final scene, some say, it's a critique on the nuclear family. It kind of gives reference to the Cold War era, the Cold War paranoia. I've even heard one theory say like Ben is kind of a metaphor of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. There's all kinds of different theories out there for it. It's how rich this movie is. It's really open-ended. You can have so many different interpretations of the hidden meanings behind it. This film's pretty much on every list of 500, 100 greatest films of all time. If you're a horror fan, this movie is a necessity. You have to watch it, or you can't really consider yourself a horror film, I don't think. I don't want to be dogmatic about it, but you know what I mean. It's one of those movies you just have to watch if you're American or just a film buff in general. It's one of those movies you have to watch. It's on your bucket list. Put it on your bucket list. It's a great movie. It's public domain, so you can't make up the excuse of, I don't have enough money to rent it or anything. You can download it off YouTube right now or any other site. The cops won't come after you. It's 100% free. It's one of the highest downloaded films of all time because it's public domain. So many different distributors have sold, different copies of this movie. I definitely recommend this movie. Night of the Living Dead, number 10.